Hello darlings, how the devil are we? So machine learning is something you hear fairly often when it comes to image recognition or voice recognition, but I gotta say, today is the first time I've actually heard it being used with the term cheating. And what comes more surprising is this isn't actually PC game cheating, this is actually the console department. So this actually came from the Anti-Cheats Police Department. And if you don't know who they are, I suggest you check them out on Twitter. They're very, very interesting. They have all sorts of bits and bobs on cheating and explaining it and the tech, and also new threats that pop up now and again. But apparently the most high-tech, most recent form of cheating comes in the form, as previously mentioned, in computer learning. And apparently what it does is it analyzes the gameplay footage in real time and then sends the inputs back to your controller. I can't stand cheating at all, and I don't condone it in any form whatsoever. However, looking at the tech behind this, it does look rather interesting. So unlike other conventional cheats where you have software installed on your local system, instead you have a capture card and a PC. And what you do is that you send your gameplay from the console to your PC where it does the analysis and then sends the feedback to your controller and assists you with your aiming. What's more scary about this is that it's not your typical aimbot as well. It's more like a very, very extreme aim assist. And when you marry that with the console landscape already, it makes it pretty hard to detect. So what you end up with is, instead of having that traditional kind of snap movement that you see in like bog standard aimbots, you end up with a movement that looks a lot more natural and by proxy, as already mentioned, a lot more difficult to detect. Now currently there's not too much to worry about, since you need an actual separate PC to set this up and a fair bit of hardware and know-how to do it. The problem will be when it becomes portable and more easily available to the layman. And there's also growing concern that this will become so available that it will start to creep into competitive games such as Call of Duty. Because as it stands currently, consoles for the most part get to stay clear of all sorts of cheats because you can't actually directly install onto the consoles themselves relatively easily. Now there are some people who probably would disagree with me. I know there's a whole lot of talk around modded controllers and also the various plugins that you can get, etc., that do give you some sort of extra aim assist, but in terms of conventional, they are pretty safe. The annoying thing is that with advancements in the gaming space also come advancements in the cheating space. It wasn't so long ago that Infinity Ward put down 70,000 bans on Warzone alone, which is no meager number when you think about it. In fact, the problem got so bad at one point, people on consoles were opting to turn off the crossplay on Warzone just so that they could get a breath of fresh air from all the PC gaming cheaters. And it's a real concern. I mean, I always feel like developers are one step behind when it comes to cheats, and rightly so, because once they've released their source code, it's a matter of proactively cleaning it up when they actually find a cheat. I mean, I'll give you a good example. So Valve, many years ago with Team Fortress 2, there was a cheat called Laughing My Ass Off Box, or LMAO Box. And Valve, they struggled with it for absolutely ages. I mean, this thing had aimbots, it had wall hacks, it did a whole lot of things in there, and people would just blow up on Reddit daily because it was just so annoying to play people with this cheat. And how did they solve it, you may ask? Well, a good Samaritan actually leaked the source code for the cheat, and they eventually managed to put it into the Valve anti-cheat system, but up until that point, it was just this constant perpetual battle. The other problem is, and we've covered stories about this before, about big busts going on in China, etc., is that people are willing to spend the money on these cheats. And where there is money, there will always be someone there to develop so they can receive it. And the thing is, it's not just a case that people will buy an out-of-the-box cheat. People will go to developers and get something tailored made specifically for them. For example, you may have heard of a company called Perfect Aim, and they make cheats for absolutely everything. And they make them for Apex, Battlefield, Rust, Tarkov, you name it. And I think it's appalling, and I don't agree with it whatsoever. But the fact is, there are people out there with this money. I mean, they're almost spending up to £500 per cheat in some instances. And I mean, how, with that kind of money floating around, what kind of person wouldn't turn that down? But it's not all bad news. There have been some advancements in kind of trying to clean up cheats, and I will give you some advice on, if you want to help in this situation. So, for example, companies are putting up paywalls, for example. And the premise is fairly simple. So when you use a cheat, there's always a strong chance that you will eventually get caught. And if you're on a free-to-play game, for example, like Apex, then you can simply just remake the account and go at it again. However, if there's an upfront cost, for example, between $20 and $30, then it becomes a little bit more of a incentive not to do it. And that's not to say that it works every time, because, you know, you look at games like WoW, for example, botting is everywhere and they just keep coming back. Another source of dealing with it is actually at the root level. So you may have heard of Valorant installing essentially rootkits onto your system, and they will ban your hardware if you find to be cheating. And the idea being is that if your system is caught cheating, then any games that are associated with that system, you'll get banned across the board. And the last one I want to talk about is community efforts. And what this basically means is what you can do as a person to kind of help with assisting on cheating. And this is going to sound really obvious, but you know that little report button? When you press it and you report that there was a cheater, this helps developers and system analysts get the data they need to then go back into the game and look at what sort of cheat that they were using. And the larger the sum of the data, the better chance they have at defeating it. And if you want to go for the fully nuclear option, or actually some countries have made it actually illegal to make cheats in the country. And if you're found to actually be cheating, you will be arrested. And we covered a story a little while back on China, how they actually, I think it was chicken something, but anyway, they arrested everyone in the company, bar 2 people I think it was, and it was earning a huge amount of money, but comes at a real cost. Anyway, that's all I've got on for cheating and bits and pieces at the moment. I hope you found this a little bit interesting. I always do, so I try and bring up these stories. But yeah, I hope everyone's having a great day. I'll be back with more news soon. But yeah, stay healthy, stay safe, and I'll be back in a bit.